everyone. Welcome to ComeLead May 1st Friday. I am Liao Zhao again, the head of outreach at ComeLead. So I had a lot of one-on-one conversation with our community, with our students, and many of you mentioned that you're interested in working for a communication or marketing agency. So today we're very excited to invite Erica Harris as the guest speaker. And Erica is the account director at Delightful Communication based in Seattle. And in today's session, she will walk along with you to talk about what it looks like to work for a communication and marketing agency, as well as what kind of services they provide to their clients. So Erica, I will pass it to you and to start your program. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. And thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate being here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Yes, awesome. Okay, great. So thank you so much again. My name is Erica Harris. I am the account director at Delightful Communications for Executive Communications. I will talk a little bit about how Delightful is set up. First, I just kind of want to give you a rundown of my history and my background. And Delightful Communications is a marketing and communication agency that we have been in business for 11 years, which is great. And we primarily work with B2B tech companies, though we have a diversity of experience. We sort of I would say we narrowed our focus during the COVID pandemic into B2B tech, but we have really a wide variety of experiences from everything from travel and aeronautics to retail to food and beverage to products. So we do have quite a wide variety of experiences. And so my role is really, so I lead the executive communications team. And so what that means is that my team creates marketing plans, communication plans, and then executes on those plans for individuals representing a company. So instead of, say, managing a brand channel or a brand community site, what we do is we work with VPs, CVPs, anybody kind of at a leadership level to really bring out not just their leadership, which is obviously important for their social media, for their publications, their speakership bios, things like that, but also in alignment with the company that they are part of. So we don't just work for the individual, we actually work for the company as well. So with that, and how I got into that is I was primarily a speechwriter. So I started my career in politics, which is, everybody gets into their thing for different reasons. And so I was a political speechwriter for almost 10 years. I worked on Senator Tammy Duckworth's campaign. Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. And then I primarily worked with folks in the city of Chicago. I worked with various aldermanic caucuses. For those of you from Chicago, aldermen are basically the same as city councilors. They just have a different name. And so I managed a lot of the all-up messaging and communications that came out of the state house, or the city house, the city hall in Chicago. I managed the communications for the Black Aldermanic Caucus, the Latinx Aldermanic Caucus, and the Women's Aldermanic Caucus as well. And then I came out to Seattle and shifted into communications for a nonprofit, which focused on reproductive health for folks, for women and folks generally with uteruses. So that was a big part of, again, creating all up messaging systems, not just for individuals, not just as an individual speechwriter. And then after that, I moved, as I think many of you remember, 2016 and 2017 were pretty tough politically. And so I took my nonprofit knowledge and came to the UW and worked at the College of the CBE, which is the College of Built Environments. I was the communications director there for 2.5 years. It was really great to be able to take both that individual, that speech writing, and that big communications plan piece and kind of marry them at the UW, which is what I was able to do. But I was really sort of interested in being able to expand what I had already done. And so getting into some more integrated marketing. And so when this role with Delightful came up, and I was also really interested in diving into technology and some other things. So it really felt like a great fit. And so I've been with Delightful for 2.5 years at this point. Personally, I really love it. It's not just a great employer in terms of what we get to do creatively. The projects we work on are really interesting, but it's also a really great culture, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Feel like I've been talking a lot. Any questions?
I'm asking our students to type in questions throughout your speech so we can take a break, like
Perfect.
when we see this question come through. Yeah,
Perfect.
but yeah, feel free to tap your question, or if you prefer to unmute yourself, raise your hands and we can go from there as well. Yeah.
Yep. Feel free to interrupt me. This is all very easy breezy. So whatever's easiest for you all. So very quickly, so one of the biggest things that has happened recently was last year, Delightful Communications was acquired by Prime8 Consulting. And so I think you all had a First Friday with Sue a few weeks ago, from Prime8. She's the best. And so what I just want to kind of set up how we're structured. So Prime8 is our parent company. They oversee Delightful Communications. Prime8 and Delightful are still two separate companies because we focus on different things and are under different models. Prime8 is a consultancy. So what that means is that they really embed their employees with specific teams. And you have, specific contracts with very specific deliverables. What we do is we're external priorities. We're storytellers. So what that means is that they hire us in to deliver something that they can push out, whether that is external to, say, Microsoft, whether it's public domain, PR, or whether it's like an internal communications plan. But we're not helping them actually move Microsoft or Intel or any of our clientele. We're not helping them move their things forward internally. We're helping them storytell what they're doing internally. So that's kind of how they work together. Prime8 is an internal consultancy, and we are an agency. So we are also not employed we're not put into a specific team. We work with a specific team within Delightful Communications to deliver for our clients. Is that clear? Awesome. Yeah, okay. I'm seeing a great chat. Okay, working with an executive could cause a lot of crisis management. Can you share an overview of crisis framework for mitigating risk and managing crisis for an individual? I can certainly talk about that. Given I was in politics for 10 years, I know a lot about crisis communication management. But I do want to just talk very quickly, and I'll come back to your question, don't worry, about kind of what we do, how we talk about ourselves, and then some of the work that we've done that's been really impactful. And so, yeah. All right. So we have really been helping, B2B technologies and their leaders become more discoverable, shareable, and memorable since 2012. So that is really the biggest part of the work that we do. And that is we bring our expertise not just on social, though on the exec comms team, we do focus a lot on social media. We work on LinkedIn, we work on Twitter, we work on Discord sometimes, we work on Instagram, wherever executives are showing up, right? And we don't have a lot of folks on TikTok at the moment, actually, but I think we may get there. And so, hold on one sec here. Sorry. Let me hop down to. Again, apologies. I'm so used to Teams that I hit the wrong button. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, so high level, what we really do is that we do the strategic planning, the creative ideation, and then we build content. We are content creators, if you will. We just happen to do it at an agency level rather than, in our own homes. We have won several awards as well. We have won the Trailblazer for Innovation Award, the Microsoft Supplier Prestige Award. We won the Drum Awards for Social Media back in 2022. And then the Content Marketing Awards we won in both 2018 and 2017, which is great. Again, we are a small agency as well. So I just want to highlight, we have 43 people right now. A year ago, at the beginning of 2022, we had 32. So we have increased by 10 people. And really that's because the work that we do is really compelling and we really put a lot of that creative ideation into it. So fundamentally, everybody who we work with, who I work with, is a very creative person. And what we do is we want to bring those expertise and that strategic creation and that strategic expertise on what's happening in social media, what's happening in the news, what's happening just across the ecosystem to make sure that our clients show up in the very best way that they can and that they can really propel their messages forward and cut through a lot of that noise, because we all know social media is very busy and it's very loud. All right. So these are just a couple of groups that we've worked with in the past. I've mentioned Microsoft, Intel, we've worked with Accenture. We, really do have a very wide array of clientele. Some folks I can talk about by name, given that they're in our creds deck. However, we do also, work with clients who we do have, NDAs and stuff. We are very much a valued member of their team. And so just a couple of high level, we have a lot of our clients we've been working with for 5 years or more. So for a company that's only 11 years old, it's pretty good. All right, so this is what we do. And it's a lot. So we do everything on the marketing side. We do demand gen, content marketing, influencer marketing. Our influencer marketing program has actually won several awards. I'm happy to talk a little bit more in detail about that as well later on. We do a lot of event amplification, which I will say has ebbed and flowed, but I will say that we're also seeing a big increase back into events now that events are happening again. We do social media and SEO, employee advocacy. We do brand channel management. We do community management. And that's all under the integrated marketing pillar. So that's one department of Delightful. The other is executive communications. That's my department. And so what we do is leadership branding. And this is a very detailed piece of work that we call a leadership brand lab, which I can get into in a little bit more detail, but it's a really foundational piece of work, and it's honestly one of my favorite things to do. That we also do thought leadership. So that can be anything from podcasts, long form content like blogs. We write a lot of the LinkedIn blogs for our clients. Video content, we do everything from panels to sizzle reels, anything like that. We do digital PR. So we're not in that way. And this gets back to the crisis communication question. We're not a PR firm. We do digital PR. So what that means is, hey, you executive A are an expert in this particular field of manufacturing, for example. Here are 6 podcasts that we should pitch you to that would be great for you to share your expertise on. So we're not actively putting together press releases. We're not, we're not going out and pitching to journalists, though we do want to find opportunities to amplify the expertise and the messages of our clients. And so we also work with contributor marketing. So what that really means is making sure that the ecosystem across a clientele is connected to one another. So what is an executive in one department doing that can impact what another executive is doing? And then also, of course, executive social media management. We often manage the social media of our clients. Awesome. No worries, no worries. I can absolutely talk about crisis framework though, because it does happen for sure. And then within Delightful, we also have the creative studios branch. And so what that is who makes the videos, because I'm great at executive comms. I am not a videographer. I do not have that visual design mindset. So our creative studios is made up of videographers, designers, production assistants, and then we also have both animation specific designers and then copywriters as well. So for certain blogs, sometimes we'll bring in an outside writer, depending on both bandwidth and say, this particular writer has written a lot of long form pieces for this client, so they really understand their voice. And that's really one of the other things that I really enjoy about Delightful is that nobody's too precious about the work. It's more about how do we create the best product and how do we work together to do that. Any questions on our services? Great. And so the big thing that overarches all of our work is the strategy. So that is landscape research, what's trending, what's not, what's what's upcoming, what are people talking about, what shouldn't people be talking about. That's also a big one. And that comes with the strategy. So how are we strategically positioning either the, influencer marketing or the product or the executive to highlight not just their own goals, but the company's goals? We put together messaging frameworks. And so that is everything from script writing to say an entire website or an entire web page saying this is how it should operate. This is what the content needs to live there, those sorts of things. The tactical cadence is really much more about that execution that I talked about earlier. So we have ed calendars for our clients to make sure things like May is Mental Health Awareness Month, making sure executives know that that is something they can post about, making sure, national or international observances aren't forgotten, whether that is a personal holiday or whether that is, something more more external, say like Black History Month, things like that. So we make sure that that cadence is always up to date. That also includes things like, are executives going to be at a speakership opportunity, things like that. So, and then the other thing about Delightful is that we are incredibly data driven. So we provide for executive comms for our executives, we provide monthly reporting. And then we also do a year wrap up as well. So we look at month to month growth, and then we also look year over year for our clients that come back. So what that means is that we are constantly checking not just the numbers, but we're also providing insights into, hey, why is there a drop in Q3? What should we be doing better? If you have all heard LinkedIn is making some, platform changes, how should we adapt what we're providing for our clients to those platform changes? So we recommend all of that within our monthly reporting cycle as well. So we take that measures that data, and then we also analyze it and put it together for our clients who, while they may be experts in a lot of different areas, are not experts on social media or communications. That's our job.
Cool. Thank you, Erica. We
Yeah.
got 2 questions from our students regarding to the team. Kristen has a question about how big is the creative team. I think we might be curious about like how big is it for each team, and Millie is also curious about like in the realm of creative studio work, do you have UX design or research kind of staff?
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, so again, the All Up company is about 45 people right now. About 25 of those sit on the integrated marketing side. So that is the that is the largest department, and it is also the department that's been operating the longest. So 11 years ago when this was started, and I will tell you this story, the founder and former CEO started Delightful Communications in a Trophy Cupcakes in Madison Park. That was where his office was for, I think, the first year. Was he just worked out of that Trophy Cupcakes, which I think is not a bad office, honestly. And so let's see, so 25, and then the exec comms team has, let's see, 15, and I'm a little loosey-goosey with the numbers because we do have some folks who are hybrid roles, and what that means is that they work on integrated marketing projects and exec comms projects. So it's not one-to-one. We're also a very collaborative team. That's really just part of our DNA, how we've built the company. But to your specific question, the executive team has 7 folks on it. Awesome. And then in the realm of creative studios work, does Delightful Communications also factor in? Currently, we don't. That is definitely something that we're interested in, but it is not one of our primary. It's not one of our primary offerings right now.
Thank you, Erica.
Yeah. All right. So with that, I would love to know kind of what questions you have about working at an agency, communications, All Up. I've been in the industry for like 15 years. But what are you all curious about?
Again, feel free to type your questions in the chat, or if you want to raise hands, or unmute yourself, that's totally fine too. Jebby has a question, like, what is your favorite part about your current role?
Perfect. Well, this is a great segue. I appreciate it. So I'll talk a little bit about Delightful's culture. So currently, my favorite part of my role, and so the way that our roles are divided, so each department has an account director. That's what I am. I am the only account director on the EC team. Our team has grown exponentially over the last 3 years. But my favorite part has been being able to coach and help build the professional confidence and professional development of my people. I'm really so proud of this team. I also really love being a teacher and a coach, and being able to share just a ton of brain dump knowledge, and then having other people take it and run with it, are is my favorite part of my current role. Awesome. Okay, we got a whole bunch. How involved are the clients in the creative process? Yeah, so this is great. So, and this I think gets to a little bit of a crisis communication example, or, you know, whenever we do communications process, while we're not directly a crisis PR firm, um, there are crises that happen. One of the nice things I think about Delightful and about the exec comms process is, you know, as really embedded partners with, you know, our clients, we're always in the know when things come up. So, for example, some of our tech clients, when there is, you know, a news hold, whether that is, you know, a national tragedy, you know, a lot of school shootings, or just, again, violence on a large scale, anything, you know, they will let us know, hey, we're having a social pause, right? Because we don't want executives posting things that may come off as insensitive. Obviously, these posts get planned in advance. So we are always, always, always keeping an eye on what's going on, just to make sure, hey, has anything changed? Has wording changed that we need to adapt to? So sometimes there are crises anyway. Sometimes I don't I'm sure you all know that sometimes the internet can be a little bit of a fraught place. So sometimes, you know, we get folks on LinkedIn or Twitter who, you know, want to create a dialogue, sometimes in a healthy way, sometimes in a pretty trolly way. That can be a big crisis, depending on not only their reach, but what are they saying, right? Is it getting into like threatening speech? Is it getting into, you know, intimidation? What's happening? However, is the best way to approach somebody who is trying to troll to delete their comment and block them and potentially have them come back, right? So some of those crisis procedures are something that we deal with pretty regularly. And so in general, it's very, I hate to say this, but it's very much context dependent, right? Is what's happening in the world, what's happening in the executive's ecosystem, and then also what is this person trying to get out of this interaction? If they're just trying to troll, then you can delete and block them, right? If they're trying to have an open dialogue, maybe it's worth the executive, and generally, you know, we can write these as well, is reaching out to them and saying, hey, you're really upset about this. Let's maybe have a conversation. Let's maybe, you know, here's somebody on my team you can email with your concern. You know, oh, hey, this product isn't working right for you. How can we get you what you need? Awesome. Okay. There are so many questions. Sorry, I'm scrolling through.
Oh, Katie is asking, what skills do you feel like are missing from resumes of Fox that are always that have always or are currently on in-house teams? Yeah.
That's a great, and thinking specifically from a strategic role, Katie, that's it, right? Is, are you a strategic thinker? Can you think creatively? And can you think critically? And so I think sometimes when you're in an in-house role, it's, I've got my deliverables, I need to get them out, I need to, you know, hit my deadlines and those things. But are you seeing the wider picture, right? And so I can tell you that, and this goes to another question in the chat, is we have adapted our hiring process over the last 2 years to, and again, you know, we are also very, I just do want to say this, is that we are very cognizant of DE&I. We don't want folks to feel like the the interview process is a waste of their time. We don't want people to feel like, they're doing a ton of work and not getting paid for it and not even getting a job offer. So we're very cognizant of those things. So we do try to keep the interview process pretty short, and we do also try to be very responsive in our process, just because that's what you do as an empathetic, kind human. But what we really wanted to see was, how are people not just thinking about, say, a deliverable, but how is the deliverable, whether it's a social post, whether it's a blog, how is that actually interacting with the other things that are happening in the ecosystem? Is it creating issues with, say, another industry executive? Is it creating a meaningful conversation about the future of AI, or, the impact of, say, omnichannel versus unified commerce in the retail sector? What are we trying to achieve, and what does that look like from a wide lens? So that's what I would say. And we've worked very, very hard to make our hiring process take that into account. And so one of the things that we do a writing test for strategist level and above. But the part of the writing test that we really pay a lot of attention to is, when you're sourcing content, why did you source it? When you suggest, this campaign, why did you do that? Tell us the why. And I think that is really powerful. And honestly, across jobs I've hired for in the past, I think it is pretty standard. We want to know why you're thinking the way you are. What is calling to you about this? Not the how necessarily, but the why.
Cool. Thanks, Kristen asked about the hiring process. Erica, would you mind to sharing what kind of open roles is Delightful going to have in the upcoming year?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, we have grown very quickly, which is great. And so we have just wrapped up a season of hiring. However, by the end of the year, we are planning to hire at least 5 more, if not more. So what that means right now is that we are basically restructuring slightly, just because we have grown so rapidly. And so we're just making sure that our teams are set up super efficiently. We will be looking not only to hire, but we are looking at an internship program, as well as Primate also has an internship program for the summer. And then we will be hiring on both the integrated marketing side and the exec com side. We will also be hiring, I think, for 1 designer, if not 2. And we will be hiring across the levels. So from specialist and coordinator, which are our 2 most entry levels, up to senior strategist.
Cool, thank you. That's a great news for our students. Yeah.
Yep. And I will throw both my information in, so you can reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. As I've said, we spend a lot of time on our clients' LinkedIns. Sometimes we even operate them. So sometimes I'm hard to get a hold of on my own LinkedIn channel. So do feel free to email me. I'll drop it in at the end. And then there are a couple other folks, if you're interested in open roles, that you can reach out to. We will also be posting those open roles when they come available on the Primate website, since Primate is our internal partner, and they are our recruiting team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the next question comes from Melissa. How has the industry changed or evolved since you started at Delightful in 2022? Yeah,
2022. So it's a great question. I mean, I think the biggest one is AI, right? Has really just exploded. And I can also answer the AI question in a moment as well with that. But I think when I started, AI was very much on the periphery. We had the talk about the metaverse and what AI could actually do. And then within the last, I'd say, 8 months to a year, Copilot has launched, ChatGPT. All of these technologies have just launched, right? And so I think that's a big one. I mean, I think the other one is the disillusion of Twitter or X. We had our clients were primarily on LinkedIn and Twitter at the time. And over the past year, most of our clients have gotten off of Twitter for various reasons. And so one of the big things that we've been doing is looking at where are other places that our executives can engage with folks. And what we're finding is, it's not so one size fits all like Twitter was. So, for example, some of our engineering CVPs are really great on Discord, right? Like Discord was made for them. Or some of our people focused clients, like the chief people officer of a large tech company, she's great on Reddit. She does AMAs on Reddit all the time, right? So it's a little bit more bespoke per client. LinkedIn is sort of the gold standard, as a professional, as somebody propelling thought leadership from a company level, you really should be on LinkedIn. But then outside of that, who's your audience, right? So engineers, they're going to have a lot of engineering audiences on Discord. People officers, they're going to have a wider net on Reddit than they would on Discord, for example. We're also looking at things like Blue Sky, Mastodon. What is the next thing? So I think those are the two biggest things. And then I know there was an AI question following. So yeah, it's a great question. But I'm not going to, I will not include my team on this thought process. This is my own take on AI in general. And so right now we're beta testing Copilot. So that's the one I'm most familiar with. AI is a really bad substitute for writers. It is. If you write something and want a second opinion, AI can help, but you have to write that primary thing. You are the strategic direction. Without any strategic direction and saying, hey, write me a post on like what it means to be a good leader, you get absolute gibberish. And that is because AI does not have the human experience of, say, knowing what a good leader looks like and what a bad leader looks like, or knowing that this executive not only is a mentor and coach, but also is a neurodivergent leader. And so working that in, right? So we have that complexity of knowledge, and AI, while it connects dots in a like, here's an article, here's an article, here's an article way, it doesn't actually connect the ideas, right? If any of you have seen the film A Fish Called Wanda, there's a great quote in it that says, I believe it's, the quote is, an ape doesn't read Nietzsche. And the response is, yes, he does. He just doesn't understand it. That's kind of how I feel about AI, is that AI understands the text, the grammar, those things, but it doesn't understand ideas yet. The other thing that I find very problematic about AI is that if you are writing for anybody who has a marginalized identity, who is at an intersection of identities, AI becomes very problematic because, as we know, AI is not always the most neutral. And so some of the things we're finding with AI is like, ooh, there's a lot of racism on the internet. So some of that gets brought into, and so we really need to screen for those things, even if it's very small things like, I'm trying to think of one that we had recently. even some of the language adaptations. So, but we do try to be very ethical. We also, have to make sure that anything that we're putting into AI, is strictly encoded because we are working with clients. We are under, company NDA rules. So we can only use Copilot because, other AI tools, it just lives in that tool, right? Whereas Copilot, it's actually very specific and it doesn't go anywhere. It's not used to empower other AI processes. So that's one of the big reason the big I guess the big guidelines we're using. We are constantly researching AI. So right now we have a big research project on some of the other uses. One of the things that I really like AI for is curation management. So, for example, on exec comms, we curate content for all of our clients. So that means we'll go to some place like Harvard Business Review and say, hey, this article really aligns with, part of your leadership brand. I think you should post on it. The client says, yes, great, huzzah, let's move forward with that. AI can really help when you search, hey, what are, articles in the past 2 weeks about being a productive leader or about omnichannel versus unified commerce. You can tell I've been working on a project about unified commerce. So sorry that keeps coming up. But so I think AI is very helpful, but I don't think I think some people say it's a replacement, but for people like us who are connecting these big storytelling, really creating narratives and building out strategic stories, it can't replace us, right? It can just help us unify things, maybe adapt some language, maybe not. But it's always worth having, a second pair of human eyes as well as AI eyes on it.
Thank you. Thank you for your input, Erica. Yeah, very good steps. Okay. So Josephine has another question. Would clients typically engage both Delightful and a PR agency at the same time? And how would you divide and manage the workload in such cases?
Yeah, so we have a lot of clients who we partner with PR agencies. And so we actually don't need to divide and manage the workload because we operate in different spheres, right? So the PR agency really manages things like news announcements. They work with the internal teams, they work with, internal affairs or public affairs to make sure, anything that is proprietary information is not, produced. They manage the timeline of product releases. What we do is really much more storytelling, right? So, what we do, we have a clientele of a team of 12 leaders, and we work with a PR agency that says, hey, here's where all of these leaders are going to be, and here's what they're announcing. Here are the various blogs that are going to go live. We need social support and announcement support across the board. So what we'll do is we will build out from the editorial calendar. Is we will say, okay, this person is announcing here. This executive is also going to reshare here at this time, right? So we're not getting a lot of cross posting, but we're getting cross amplification because every audience is a little bit different. And then what we'll do is also say, okay, we've got, the executives who are announcing. Are there quotes that you want us to add? And then how are we amplifying to say not just the leadership team, but their leaders? So we'll put together what are called social bombs or social playbooks. So that is really customizable text of announcements, and we provide, 3 to 5 pieces of social copy that they can customize themselves or they can use as is to highlight what's happening. We also provide very specific instructions on how to reshare, how to add a photo, those sorts of things. And so, we partner really strategically with them. We do a lot of, for this particular client, it's a big product clientele. And so we do a lot of product videos with them. And so the video team will create the video. PR will say, this is when we're announcing it. This is when we have the go live date. The press release will go out at this time to this number of agencies. And then we'll get it up on social. We'll get it up on, say, the website. And then we'll also make sure that the amplification plans not only hit our executives, but we'll share it over with the IM team, the integrated marketing team at Delightful, and say, hey, here are a bunch of things that the brand channels can amplify as well. So it's all very much a coordinated effort. Yeah, one thing you like the most and dislike about working in an agency. Yeah, so it's a really good question. And to your point, as you might be able to tell, I am very much a context matters person. As a storyteller, I think the context is usually tells you a lot. So I will say I've only worked in one agency setting, and that's Delightful. And Delightful is a different type of agency. So we are not a churn and burn agency. So we make sure that our folks are utilized not at like 100%. Our folks are not utilized at 90%. There needs to be time for folks to do professional development, to do internal work, to, have creative ideation that may be outside of billable work. So that's one thing that is very different. And the other thing is that we have folks on multiple clients because we don't want to have, for example, somebody on one client, that then if that client leaves, that person is out of a job. We don't do that. That's not our model. We are really committed to the people, the growth, and of course, just the, security of our people. And so one of the biggest things that I love most about Delightful is the culture. From the top down, it's very people-centric. We have our Delightful principles, which I can show you right here. The number one is community-centric. And so, one of our big talking points is that our agency is about people. It's not just pixels, right? So in terms of agency workload, and this goes back to an earlier question, I think, working as an agency, we have a lot of strategic partnership, but at the end of the day, we don't have the last say on creative. So sometimes the client will say, this is what we want, and we are not compromising on that, and you need to deliver on that. And we can say, okay, that's fine. It's gonna turn out the way that we said it would, but we'll deliver it. That's fine. And so in terms of creative ideation, again, context is everything. It's very client dependent. Some clients are a lot more involved. For example, some of our executive comms clients like to approve all of their social copy and even, make adjustments. We have systems where they will go into like a Word document, edit it, and approve it, and we don't post anything unless we have the approval. Some of our executives we've never met, and we only work with their comms manager, and their comms manager approves everything, and then we post it. It's really dependent. But that's why one of the big things that we do, and I did want to talk about this a little bit, is we do a creative brand lab for our clients. And that is what we call a leadership brand lab. We interview clients for 45 minutes and we ask them all kinds of different questions, but it's largely to get at who are you as a leader and how does that persona impact your goals as a leader? What are your goals? Now, this is a personal interview, but we always have to make sure that we are incorporating the company goals as well, right? Because the individual, we do have personal brand labs, and so that is if somebody wants to work outside of the company and work on their social outside of the company. But really, we're brought in to manage the executive within the company, to create a thought leader within the company, right? So we have to look at who they are as a leader, how they show up, and then how does that map onto not only their social goals, but the company strategy all up. And sometimes folks have very specific opinions about who they are as a leader, and sometimes they're accurate and sometimes they aren't. I'm always happy to tell people that I think they're wrong. Not everyone's super comfortable with that. So I think to get to your question, my biggest dislike is that we don't have that final creative say all the time. We do a lot of the time, I will say, but not all the time. And all you can do is tell the client how things are gonna end. And when it ends that way, you can say, "We told you so. Here you are." So
That's a very good example, Erica. Yeah, when you work for clients, you have to compromise. Yeah, sometimes.
you do.
Um,
And sometimes compromise is good, right?
yeah,
Sometimes it leads to more creative adventures, and sometimes it creates a product even better than you would have thought, but not always.
not always. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like we answer all the questions. Did we answer the first one that Jebby mentioned about the crisis management? So at the very beginning, yeah.
Yeah, so again, we don't do crisis management specifically, but again, when we manage things like social media, there are crisis moments. And just as somebody who's been in the workforce for what feels like a million years, I think the most important thing you can do in whether you're in a crisis or are, whether you're in a crisis or not, is learn the difference between what is urgent and what is an emergency and what is manufactured urgency, right? So my favorite thing to tell my team is like, we're not curing cancer. We're not like, no one's dying if a tweet doesn't go out. You know what I'm saying? Like, a client may say that this is urgent. It's not, right? You can reprioritize to make it the top priority, but we don't need to be so reactive that we're actually creating not a very good post or not a very good strategy, right? It's our job to also make sure that we can help the clients see the path through the trees when they're getting a ton of information and people are telling them this is urgent. We can actually step back and say, is this urgent, or can this go out tomorrow? Can this actually be timed a little bit better? So just across the board in professional lives, learning the difference between emergency, urgency, and manufactured urgency, I think is really important.
Great. Thank you, Erica. I think we covered all of the questions. If we'll wait for one more minute, see if you have a last minute question. But we'll share the recording with everyone after the session next week. So in case you'd like to review it, so you won't miss anything. And we'll also share Erica's contact info, your email with our participants. So if you want to connect with her in the future, you're welcome to do so. As Erica mentioned, like Primate's website will share more job opportunities about Delightful Com. So feel free to follow their website if you're interested in working for Delightful Com for the coming year. So anyway, thank you everyone for being so engaged in our conversation today. And thank you, Erica, for answering tons of questions from our community. Yeah.
No, it was great. Thank you so much for having me. I have dropped in my email address as well as the VP of HR. So please feel free to reach out to her as well. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to connect you as well. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn as well. Like I said, it may take me a little bit of time, but I would love to connect with you, and feel free to reach out with any other questions you may have. I hope this was helpful about what agency life is like.
Yeah, that's a really good insights to help us walk through what it looks like to work for an agency. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.